everybody, welcome back to another Ableton tutorial. Lovely to have you here. Big shout out Patreon gang, big shout out YouTube gang. Let's jump straight into it. Well, what are we looking at today? You read the title on this video. Well, a lot of my musicking comes from the idea, what happens if I combine this thing with this other thing? For instance, track from my album. What happens if I combine harmonic ideas of Olivier Messiaen with ideas about programming Detroit techno? Today, what happens if we combine sort of the wonky timiness of Dilla with some generative techno jazz ideas? And where do we get to? Well, you can hear where we get to. It's going on in the background. We're going to break this down. We're going to make this whole beat from scratch. Patreon members, including those on the entry-level €3 per month tier, will be able to download this entire set, including all of the samples that I'm using. So link in the description below if you want to go and grab that, or you can stick around and make it yourself. So let's take a quick listen to the layers that are going on here. I've got a drum beat. We're going to program that drum beat. I've got this little chords layer. I just felt the beat needed this. This is just from a sample pack. And then we've got all of this funky stuff going on here using this SQ sequencer, which is what we're going to be looking at today. So let's press stop on all of these and let's start from scratch. So I'm going to start with the drums. I'm going to show you how I program in that beat. Super simple beat. This is just a basic drum rack. I've got a kick, I've got a snare, I've got a clap, which is going to happen on top of the snare, and I've got a hi-hat, and that's it. So I'm going to jump in here, double click, create a new MIDI clip, and if we have the monitor turned on here, we can hear each of these individual things. I'm going to turn that off. I'm just going to program in something like this to begin with, and that's going to sound like this. So far, so normal. Exactly what we'd expect that to sound like. Now, I could, of course, just program in hi-hats like this. This sounds super straight and super boring. So one thing we could do is we could come in here, we could shift each of these. And we're already getting that kind of a wonkiness thing happening that Dilla is really associated with. I'm going to actually use another technique that I saw from a Dilla video. I can't remember who is breaking this down. Otherwise, I would list it below in the comments. I'm going to delete all of those apart from that first one. And instead of making this sort of moving them around by ear or by sight, I'm actually going to divide this into a septuplet groove, which sounds quite complicated. It's not. So I'm just going to make 8 of these hats. And that sounds as we'd expect that to sound. But if I now select all of these, I get this warp marker here. And I can stretch this to wherever I like. So this is now dividing this 2 beats into 7. But I'm actually going to put that there. I'm going to delete that hat. Oh goodness me. I'm going to delete those 2, and I'm going to delete those 3. And if I copy this all the way through... Oh, don't need that. And it's already sounding kind of wonky. This is not sounding so straight, but I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to take the second one of those hats. So this is now... the first and the fourth in a group of 7 septuplets. And we're getting it sounding nice and wonky already. I could add another kick here. But that's now sort of straightening the whole thing out again. So I'm going to actually take another one of these septuplet subdivisions. So these are now exactly 1/7 of a septuplet long. So I'm going to make another 2 and delete that. I'm going to move that down onto the kick track. And that's all I'm going to do. It's already sounding nice and wonky. Okay, now the main thing that's happening in this patch that you heard at the start is this guy, the SQ sequencer. So I'm going to bring that in on a new track. Let's turn off that stuff that I had before, and it's in MIDI effects. If it doesn't come up in your MIDI effects, it's part of this Ableton sequences pack for Ableton Live 12. I think I've looked at a couple of these other ones before, the step up and maybe the rhythmic steps. Today we're going to look at the SQ sequencer. So I'm going to start by dragging in a MIDI effects SQ sequencer over here, and let's drag in a wavetable so we can hear what's going on. Wavetable, you can come in here. So the SQ, there you can hear it's running already. The SQ steps is sort of a standard sequencer situation. It has a lot of the things you'd expect from a sequencer. We have pitch, so we have octaves, so this is going to keep the pitch the same. Oh, goodness me. Let's reset all of those. Velocity, well, we looked a lot at velocity information on this channel, but yeah, we can sequence the velocity. We can sequence the length. Let's reset that. And on page 2 over here, it keeps pitch up the top, but then we have another thing called time shift, which is really what we're going to look at today. Ratchet and condition, I'm not going to look at so much today. Let's change a couple of things on this sound. And I'm actually going to change this to mono for now. So, the main thing that's going to give us this wonky feel is we're going to use the time shift here. So if I come down here and I make this sequence just too long. So now we can see that all of the different elements that we can change are just following this two-step sequence. And I come back to this time shift here. Now I have 2 values here, and this is going to allow me to micro shift the timing of each of these steps. So if I bring this up, and we're getting what sounds like sort of a standard swing groove that we might use in one of the groove templates in Ableton's menu over here. That's cool, that's nice. But if I now make this sort of 4 steps long, now we can hear it's only swinging that one note. So I can sort of really dial in how I want this groove to feel. So now let's bring the drums back in. And it's sounding really wonky. I really like this. Okay, I'm going to press stop on those. And I'm actually going to change this transport option so that it only advances a step when it receives MIDI information. You need to press the play thing for this to happen. So now, if I turn on my monitor here and my keyboard monitor's on, each time I press a MIDI note, it's gonna move through that sequence. So I'm actually not going to do that with my keyboard. I'm just going to program in a 16th note sequence in here. And so now that's going to step through. Lovely. Now we have this reset button here as well, which resets the steps in the sequence. So I'm going to press stop here. And so when I press this reset, it sort of it resets all of the different things that are changing to the default value. So I'm actually going to automate that using this clip. So I'm going to double click, going to go to envelopes and SQ sequencer reset steps. I'm just going to make it do that each time. Well, at the moment it's going to do it each time it triggers the clip. Let's check that that's working, and I'm going to make this let's make it some random number long. Let's change the steps to 16, and let's make it a 13-step sequence. Is it resetting it? Yeah, we can see it hitting the reset there each time it cycles through this clip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to unlink that from the clip, and I'm going to turn the loop off so that now it's only going to reset when I actually trigger this clip, not at any other time. Okay, that's nice. That's nice so far. Right, so how are we going to combine these things to get this kind of a wonky groove? Well, we've looked at this wonkiness over here. I want this to be just kind of an 8-step sequence, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink the time shift from the main sequence. I press this, unlink, and I'm going to shift this, make this go to 8. So what this means is that I can now have in this case, 13 note pattern. Let's come to pitch. Let's make it 5 so we can really hear what's happening. So I have a 5-note pattern. If I come back here to the time shift, I'm actually going to turn that on. So we can hear it stepping through this 5-note pattern, and the time shift is also doing a 5-note thing, which is why the timing feels the same each time. But if I change this to be 8, and I bring in sort of a similar time shifty thing. Now we can hear the pitch is changing to do with the timing of the swing. And what I'm actually going to do is bring the drums back in. And because I've made these different amounts of delay, different amounts of offset, let's bring this one down because that's on a beat. We've now got this pitch sort of cycling through. Let's make it. So the timing is going to stay the same. The timing is going to really connect with oh, let's bring the drums down a little bit. The timing is going to really connect with the wonk on that drums patch. But the notes are we can change the sequence of the notes. So what I'm going to do, a little bit of sound design on this bass. Actually, what I might do first is come in here and do some stuff with the velocity. Let's make it do something like this. At the velocity, I also kind of want it to reinforce the groove, so I'm not going to make that 5 long. I'm going to also disconnect that, and I'm going to make let's make the velocity 16. But let's make it do something something like this. You don't really need to be too precise with this. I could have just hit random here and seen what happened. But now let's do some stuff on the sound designer here. Yeah, I want to use a saw wave. Let's go down an octave. Let's connect the amp envelope also with the frequency envelope. So I've got a matrix, filter 1 frequency. Fun. Let's add a bit of glide. Nice. Let's do some randomization of the lengths as well. Now because this length is the same length as the pitch sequence, I'm actually going to disconnect that also. Let's make that 8 long. This one's maybe a bit short. This is fun. Let's add another oscillator. Oscillator 2. Nice. Let's add a roar in here. Just gonna beef up the sound a little bit. Yeah, a little bit of nice. Bring the drums back up again now. Okay, I'm going to bring in a compressor after that, sidechain against the drums. External input from the drum rack. I actually think I want this to be another octave down, so I'm going to bring in MIDI effects pitch. Nice. Okay, let's do a little bit of stuff on the amp envelope. Nice. What have we got going on in the pitch? Yeah, nice. Okay, let's group this pitch and this wavetable and this raw. Select it all, press Command G. Nice. Now what I want to do is create another layer in here that's going to do some chords. So I'm going to bring in another wavetable. Instruments. Let's just turn that one off for now. Another wavetable. I think I'm going to use some scale devices on these as well. I'm going to bring in a MIDI effects scale in here in front of this wavetable. Let's make it C minor for now. Let's do another one on here, scale, C minor. Okay, now I want to make some chords out of this, so I'm going to bring in a chord device, and I'm going to put that before the scale, of course. Chord. And now, nice. This is a preset I've made of the expression control, which is in the MIDI effects, where they're already all set to random. I'm going to map. Just getting. Let's map that. Yeah, let's bring in one more. Okay. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to fold all of these chords, notes, so they're all within one octave. So I'm going to use a pitch device for that. I'm going to put that after the scale device. Yep. Lowest G3. Maximum range 17. And instead of block, I'm going to fold. This needs to be after. Yeah. Nice, nice. Now, I want this to only be on loud velocity notes, so I'm gonna... Yeah, cool. Let's do some sound design on here. Yeah, let's connect that with the... So that's some unison. Bit of noise. Okay, now I want to maybe... I want less notes in the bass. I'm going to use the key selector to sort of divide these. Let's divide it at C3. Nice. Let's fix this sound a bit more. Actually, I want this down an octave. Yes. Yes. All right, let's add a little bit of reverb to that. Why not? Reverb. Fun. Now, I'm going to add one more layer in here. Let's name these. Let's name this. And here I've just got a sample. So yeah, let's press stop on both of those. It's a sample of oh no, that's the chords. This sample here. It's just a sample of some. Oh, it's turned off. Some Rhodes from a session I had a Rhodes player in. We can hear it's in the same key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that into this rack where it says drop an instrument or sample here. Just going to drag that sample. Mute the others for now. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to slice. I'm going to slice by slice by transient. What happens if I press play on this now? Nice. Now, I want this to play when none of the other ones are playing. So I want it to be the same region as the chords, and then the opposite velocity to the chords. Yeah, so like this. So now when I play this with the chords. Nice. I'm going to come in here. I'm actually going to change this playback mode to through. and just put this on gate and a little bit of fade out. Nice. Bass back in. What happens if I some different pitches? Bass is too low. It needs to go back up an octave. There we go. With the drums. This is nice. With these little chords. And then it's just a matter of playing around with these till you find a groove that you like, till you find a combination that you like. Playing around with the sounds. Maybe this bass has a bit too much on the top end now. Where's it gone? Wavetable. Yeah, matrix a bit less. Maybe a bit of yeah. Yeah, nice. And that's it. Hope you had fun. Hope you have fun exploring this in your own making. Please tag me if you're making stuff. Tag me, share. See you next time.